Hey folks, it's Marvin Cash, the host of The Articulate Fly, and we're back with another Central Virginia fishing report with Ethan Martin at TaleTellers Fly Shop. How you doing, Ethan?
I'm doing great today. How are you doing?
As always, just trying to stay out of trouble, and you're at your remote location this week.
Yeah, I've been a little bit all over the world the past, 2 weeks, I guess, but I'm back at the beach. I fished for Kobe a couple days last week and then made a pit stop back in Lynchburg to work 6 days in a row, and then now I'm back at the ocean. So it's been madness.
Yeah, but that's good. And, it's interesting. We were talking before we started recording, even though we've had kind of a real pop of hot weather, it's kind of cooled off, and it's going to be kind of in the upper 80s to low 90s, even only a couple times in the 90s over the next week to 10 days. So I would imagine, that's good for trout fishing, probably is good for the cicadas and the smallmouth bite and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I just started hearing some cicadas right as we were leaving, and then down here in North Carolina, we're hearing a bunch of them on the coast. So I talked to a bunch of my buddies right before we talked just to kind of see, where everything was at in terms of fishing for the James and my employees and everybody. So it's kind of nice to have a big network of people that I know a lot of these people are fishing and I trust them. But yeah, definitely the smallmouth stuff from everybody I've talked to has been good numbers wise. In our James is definitely doing a little bit better this year still. We did get that big flood it wasn't a big flood, of how big it could have been. But still really good numbers of bait fish, which is encouraging. And the way that's kind of affected fishing is like everybody that I talked to said bait fish has been the king, which is what I've kind of been proclaiming in the shop all the time too. So if you're out there, the popper bite, I know that you can go out and catch fish right now on poppers, but definitely it's still bait fish is the primary way of getting numbers. And then the brook trout stuff up in the mountains, temps have still been good. And it's been dry fly stuff. Not like crazy numbers and crazy activity though, from the people that I talked to. It's just been pretty solid. And then, I know this freaks people out, but I figured I should mention it just to keep people alert for it. I've heard a lot of people talk about snakes this year, which is kind of funny, up in the mountain streams. So more than usual. So I don't know if that's actually a trend or if it's just people are if they're fishing a little bit later into the season because we've had a little bit better water supply and temperatures. But yeah, something to keep in mind every time you step over a log or in a hole or something. And right before we got here, one of my employees sent me a picture of a snake sitting in the water, and he said, saw this guy and 4 others today while I was out. So holy smokes. So if you're scared of snakes, just keep that in mind.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny, right? Because I think it's one of those things. It's kind of like ticks, right? You just kind of have to be aware of it and deal with it. And to your point, as long as you don't put your hands and feet, where you can't see them, and if you're going to step over a log or a rock, make sure you have a really good look on the other side before you do that. And I don't know. The only other thing I can say from personal experience is probably not a good time if there are a lot of snakes to fish with your back upstream swinging soft hackles because they have a tendency to come downstream and they like to rest on you. I've had that happen a couple times.
Yeah, it's almost everybody I know that's fished a long time has had a couple of funny run-ins. And I had one swim right through my legs one time. I was in a river with the guy I was teaching. And I was talking to the game warden, funny enough. And in between my legs, there goes a snake.
Yeah.
So it's just you just got to keep your calm. It's like any wildlife. Don't do stupid things and keep your calm and keep your wits about you. And you should be okay. But, I don't go into any fishing thing, especially in Virginia. Maybe if you got grizzlies or something like that, you got to worry about something. But a couple snakes aren't going to deter me from fishing.
Yeah. And, to back up a little bit on the smallmouth bite. So when you're telling people to fish bait fish and not poppers, and what we're talking about is not animated poppers or kind of that traditional kind of still cicada presentation, you're probably talking about fishing Clouser minnows, probably Chuckcraft minnows, and then probably small game changers, right?
Yeah, that's more it. And it's just one of those things. We've got so much bait fish, like the smaller, just 2 to 3 inch range fish, and so our smallmouth are going to key into that. And it's just recently they've started getting into more of their smallmouth areas. I fished with my wife right before we went off to go catch cobia, and that was the thing that we found the whole day. Was like we tried throwing some poppers, and I think I actually caught a couple on the surface with I've talked about it before on the podcast, but that LB's floating minnow, Luke, my buddy's minnow. But then, our actual cicadas, like literally last week, I just started hearing some of the first ones in Central Virginia. So those fish, I mean, they're gonna still have that sort of reaction strike if you put one right on its head. In terms of just a popper that's a non-animated type, just to use the terms that you use. Like one that you cast out and it sits on the surface and it just is going to sit there. And what it looks like primarily is some sort of bug or insect or something that's fallen on the surface. Whereas the animated style, like a frog or even a mouse or something like that you cast out and then retrieve, that style, I think honestly that thing will work really early season. And then I've caught them on that stuff as late as like November. So I almost never give that stuff out. But your highest numbers are going to be fish that are under the surface, and even just big woolly buggers. Like we've had a couple good days just waiting in downtown Lynchburg and casting like tan colored woolly buggers or like a creamish whitish color, and they've done pretty well just doing that. I mean, casting out and swinging. So definitely a lot of options. If you're newer to fishing. This is like one of my favorite times to get people in fishing because you can go out, not too difficult, cast a woolly bugger or cast a cloud minnow or deceiver or whatever, and you can find those fish, especially like in that like 6 to 12-inch range. There seems to be a lot of players on the James this year that are in that range, which is nice. It's good to see something that's a little bit different size class. But we're all looking for the 20-inch. So.
Yeah, there you go. And, folks, we love questions on the articulate fly. You can email them to us. You can DM us on social media. You can even drop them into the comments to our social media posts, whatever's easiest for you. If we use your question, I will send you some articulate fly swag, and we are in a drawing for something cool from the shop at the end of the season. And, Ethan, even though you're playing hooky, you want to let folks know shop hours and all that kind of good stuff?
Oh, yeah. So I'll actually be back in the shop tomorrow, Wednesday. But we're in there from Monday through Saturday. And then if you can't make it into the store, we do online orders as well. But another thing to keep your eye out for is we do some classes. We actually have like a Fly Fishing 101 class that we are doing this upcoming Saturday, and other stuff that you can find on our website, like casting classes and tying classes and all that stuff. So you can actually find that on our website. There's a little drop-down menu that says classes and RSVP. So that's a couple more options for you if you're interested in learning and you don't want to just, watch YouTube videos. But you can find all that stuff on our website or stay in contact with us on Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff.
Yeah, well, there you go. Well, listen, folks, you owe it to yourself to get out there and catch a few and miss the snakes. Tight lines, everybody. Tight lines, Ethan.
Tight lines.